Hi, welcome to The Buzz with Joe D. I'm Joe Davidson, been with the Sacramento Bee since 1989, about that high. Certainly was pre-internet. The joy of the internet now certainly is that we're online every single day, and we have this fun show every Tuesday live. It's also archived. Join us every week and get to know some of the student athletes, the teams, the themes, the trends, the news, what's going on every week right here on The Buzz with Joe D.
All right, good to see everybody. We're going to have another fun and informative show, and we appreciate everybody for joining us. Just a reminder, check us out every single day on sacbee.com or in the print version or e-edition. We're worth a small subscription price. Today we're going to bring in our usual cast of characters, Jim Patrick and Cameron Salerno, both of the Sacramento Bee sports staff, and they've seen a lot of sporting events out there, a lot of opinion, a lot of insight. So we'll break down more basketball, boys and girls, baseball and softball. Those rankings are on every week, early in the week on sacbee.com. We're also all over social media. I like to start off each show with a commentary of sorts, and right now what's going on is graduations. If we think about last year at this time, with COVID and the pandemic, there were graduations, but no on-campus graduations. Nothing happening at Golden One or any of those venues. They were virtual, or they didn't happen at all, or drive-through type of events. This week and next, I know the Oak Grove Unified School District this week and next is having graduations. Jesuit just had a graduation on campus. It means a lot to those kids, certainly to the players and the coaches, and it's a different spin because we have a lot of high school teams still playing. In what year and what era would we have baseball going on, softball going on, football coaches coming and going, and basketball going on, but no playoffs? We've touched on that. We'll touch on it again. Why no playoffs? Did this section, the Sac Joaquin section, jump the gun on that? We had a story on that last week on sacbee.com. We'll dig on that a little bit with Jim Patrick when he joins us here in a moment. But I'm just really impressed with all the efforts. We touched on that last week, and there's so many good basketball games and themes going on, and that's a real bummer that we don't have playoffs for boys or girls. Just tonight alone in boys basketball, we have Folsom ranked 4th by the Bee playing at number 2 Capital Christian. Schedule who you can while you can. Also tonight, Grant boys basketball at Elk Grove. Elk Grove's unbeaten. Grant is loaded. Grant lost last night to Sheldon. Capital Christian later this spring will play, in June rather, will play at Bishop O'Dowd, preseason number 1 team in Northern California. And there was a shot of Siona Lose of Capital Christian. He's a B Player of the Year prospect. And so, we whether it's Folsom or Janile Harriel over at Antelope or Coach Denard Wilson over at Grant, everybody's done a good job just trying to keep people on track. Some of these schools in our areas, they had kids who did not play sports this spring because of eligibility issues. And when you're trying to do Zoom learning, some kids fell off academically, and you still have to have certain amount of grades to be eligible for sports. So some of those kids really lost out. And we're pulling for them now because they're trying to scramble and graduate this week or next. COVID's been hard enough. If you can't graduate because of COVID, or if that's a big reason, that's a real shame. Also on today's program on The Buzz, we're going to cap off Brecken Beeman. We introduced you to him last week. He's the small school wonder from Sacramento Adventist Academy. He just eclipsed 2,000 career points. That's amazing. And we'll talk. There he is right there. And we enjoy this access. And this is Coach Scott Tedman who allowed us in there. And here's this small school wonder, and we can't talk about him enough. And, he looks the part. I mean, this guy could play anywhere. We're going to have Coach Tedman, also Judge Tedman. We'll explain that next week. He'll be joining us next week on this show. And so he scored 2,000 points. Wow, it's a small school. What's the big deal? This guy can play. And we applaud the small schools for all sports. If you notice in our baseball and softball rankings, we have, softball teams, Sutter ranked. And so we appreciate all of that. But, again, kudos to another milestone scorer. We'll talk about that with Cameron Salerno later, but Janaya Harrell, a 4-year starter at Antelope, 2,000 points as well. Just amazing. She's our 2-time B basketball player of the year. Probably going to win it this year unless she, does something outlandish like actually gets a B+ in a class. I think she's been a straight A student her whole academic career. She's going to Stanford. Just a delightful person and basketball player. We're going to catch up to her next week as well for the show because she's interesting. She wants to be a lawyer. How about that? So that's some good stuff there. And we're going to if he's ready. Do we have a Jim Patrick sighting? He was scrambling to. There he is. He's texting me. I'm on my way. I'm on my way. And, he's gasping and wheezing. And so Jim Patrick is our editor. He's our friend. He's dug into all this high school coverage. He gives us a green light to cover what we need on topical issues, and goes out and covers games. And
and you know what happened again, Joe? Like I was at a game Thursday at Laguna Creek High School covering softball. And once again, for probably the 48th time, somebody saw me and said, "Are you Joe Davidson?" No. So I would just like to address right now, we have similar Chrome Dome.
We do, and I go with our sponsor, the Bee. But no, but you know what, Jim? Nobody asked me that. Are you the Jim Patrick? And
I got to start wearing a shirt around that says, "No, I'm not Joe," or something.
Yeah.
Something like that. I'm glad that you have that kind of name recognition. I mean, people like to see you. I guess.
Hopefully it was in civil tones. You're not Joe Davidson, are you?
We only get that reaction at a couple high schools, and we'll just leave it at that.
There you go. Speaking of Laguna Creek, Elk Grove Unified, you had a good game story. The Cardinals did something meaningful in their rivalry showdown with McClatchy. What happened with the Cardinals?
Yeah, we're always rooting for good stories, right, Joe? And I just kind of the coach had emailed us to ask, hey, we're unbeaten in Metro League. You guys should maybe check us out. So. Here I am. I don't put myself on a pedestal, but I showed up at the game. The sports editor from the Bee showed up at the game. Like, hey, you guys,
we can be bought.
Yeah, and it turns out not only was it a good game, it was just a good story. I don't care so much about the X's and O's. I care about the people, and these kids were so excited. Joe, 26-year history of Laguna Creek High School. They've never won a Metro League title. And they sort of didn't win a Metro League title, right? Like they can't get a banner. They can't tout it as a title, but they finished atop the Metro League standings. They did play a league schedule this year, and they finished at the top of the standings. So I don't know what to call that exactly. To me, it's a Metro League title, and it was just so neat to see those kids and the coaches are thrilled, the parents are thrilled, and there's 7 juniors on that team, Joe. So
they'll be around
up to number 18 in our ranking. I think it's the first time they've ever been ranked.
I was telling you yesterday, in all your years, Laguna Creek's had good boys basketball teams, good girls basketball teams, good football, good baseball, good track and field. Don't remember a lot from softball. This is a nice, rise for that program. And McClatchy had won the Metro, I think, 9 years in a row under its alumni coach, and so that's a nice win. And Cameron Salerno, the week before, we were out at McClatchy baseball was playing at Laguna Creek, and McClatchy won that game and won the league. And so without playoffs, Jim, a league championship matters. And I think you and I were talking about this yesterday. Maybe it's a story at some point, is what's more important to certain coaches? And I think we'll get different answers. A league championship or a section championship? And I think the easy answer is for the Laguna Creek Cardinals, well, that league championship, if you've never won one. But if you're Folsom football or Sheldon basketball, you're thinking section championship or beyond. But there are some coaches like Joe Catalico, who's a longtime championship coach, is now at Granite Bay. He has always said, I'm old school. I like the league championship. That's really means something. And so kudos to those schools like Elk Grove Baseball that has 25 league championship banners on their fence, because it means something.
Yeah, and they I hear a lot of that when I talk to like River City's football coach this past year was telling me how important their league schedule is to them, how much they enjoy playing those teams year after year. It's unique to me, Joe, because, living in other states, I've lived in Maine, I've lived in Minnesota, I lived in Utah, and those states, the state championship is really the thing. But that's really not a reality for the vast majority of our teams in this area. Nobody, very few teams are going to ascend to that level. So I love that it sort of, because of that, it sort of forces you to focus on those league titles and those section titles. And I mean, that to me, it's all about this high school is better than that high school, which is like a throwback, right? That is what it was when we were kids. It's about beating your neighbors in football. It's not about the rest of it.
Exactly right. And without playoffs this year for the Sac Joaquin section, what do you have? Well, you have a league championship to go to chase down, or a big rivalry game to chase down. And so softball is fast coming to an end. I think some teams are already concluded. It looks like Rockland will finish B ranked number 1, been ranked, I think, preseason #1 by our good friend Pete DeFore does those rankings. So there's Rockland. You've seen Rockland. You've seen all of these teams, Jim, maybe except for Sutter, but that's a small school in the northern section. We like to include them there. Vannon has been done for a couple of weeks, so everybody's had different kind of scheduling. No playoffs. We talked about that. It's a shame because we would the Division I playoffs would most likely include a Rockland, Sheldon, Elk Grove, or in Division II. The divisions are so close together, but pretty good year for softball without a playoffs.
Well, and they're all coming back next year too. So yeah, with the exception of Rockland, who I think the team manager is probably going to Boise State on a scholarship. With the exception of Rockland, which has, and I'm joking, they have something like 7 D1 players coming off that Rockland team. It's absurd. But everybody else is young. The Sheldon's top pitcher is a sophomore this year. Elk Grove's top pitcher, Asa Silva, is a sophomore. So, and in fact, I think Sheldon's pitcher is a junior. I take it back. Anyway, they're
all coming. They're all coming back.
It's the same cast and crew. Even our beloved Jenkins twins, whom we talk about because they're funny. I mean, they're juniors. So we're gonna have all these kids are coming back. And also, by the way, that's true at Laguna Creek. It was those 7 juniors are coming back. So it's the same thing all over again next year, which I wonder if there is a part of that where it's the pandemic and seniors maybe played other sports and rather than playing softball because you had to pick one sport. I don't know. I don't really understand the underpinnings of what's going on, but the story going forward is going to be next year is going to be more of the same that we saw this year, which is great.
Yeah, and we've seen that over the years, Jim, where softball or girls basketball, where you have a number of these powerhouse programs that have 3-year and 4-year varsity players. So they always have an anchor. And all those teams we just talked about, and the Jenkins twins over at St. Francis, they'll be 4-year anchors, and those at Roseville, and those at Rockland, those at Elk Grove. And so they're just ready. And Sheldon's been a powerhouse for so long because of those anchor players, and same in basketball. And it's all interesting. And you and I were talking about this yesterday, Jim. I think over the 30-something years I've been at the Bee, I think the sport that gets the most scholarships for boys or girls is girls softball. And that was the case 25 years ago. It's 5 years ago. And now, whether it's Boise State, Chico State, UC Davis, Sac State, Cal, Arizona, we've had girls play in the College World Series out of the Pac-12. Look, we've got the Jenkins twins going to UConn. So kudos to them because certainly they're great athletes, but they're also terrific students. And we know softball, if it's competitive right here in this neighborhood, then we know it's competitive down in LA, down the Bay Area, the places you've lived before across the country. Those are hard scholarships to get. And in this area, it seems to really do a great haul in softball over the years. And it's not slowing down.
Yeah. And they outshine, that's a credit to the club coaches out there because really that's where the recruiting's happening, right, is at the club level. And that's a credit to the travel teams in this area that have built up reputations throughout the state and in some cases around the country for being strong programs. So yeah, it's like you say, that it's become the highlight of my very short pandemic sports season here is going to these softball games and learning more about it. I came in as a novice. I mean, I've covered plenty of softball games in my life, but I don't understand a ton about this area of softball. And now I've had Pete Dufar sit next to me for an entire game, and you just can't help but soak up some of the information because there's a lot of it, and it's coming at you nonstop sitting next to Pete.
That's exciting. He's a delight. I've been at baseball games, and he's the public address announcer, and he's playing Rolling Stones on request. He's filling out lineup cards, and he's just probably worked a couple innings behind the plate. And Jim, we're going to let you go. In the next couple of weeks, we will probably talk about a big story that you're working on recruiting and why not recruiting really, but more on transfers and why and including in softball. And why does that happen? Is it only in football? No, it's everywhere. And why is that happening? And is it more the parents doing this? Is there undue influence with assistant coaches or parents or head coaches trying to pull kids? That would be violations, but it's not new. It's something that's been around a long time. So that'd be something that we could dig in the coming weeks.
And as soon as I have the answers, I'll share them. But for now, we got to leave those questions unanswered. Thanks,
That's Jim. Exactly it. Thanks, Jim. Good to see you. All right. Always good catch up to Jim Patrick and softball rankings by our good friend Pete DeFore and Jim. Patrick goes out there and covers anything that's noteworthy. So we really appreciate that. Speaking of noteworthy and people who cover anything noteworthy, let's bring in Cameron Salerno. And there he is. And
I'm here.
off air, his green shirt had like a like weird designs. It looked like he was
a
bricklayer.
brick.
I thought he was going to say, "Hey, I can't work at the Bee anymore. I'm going to lay brick. I'm going to do an honest man's work here." So I'm glad you're right.
I checked the settings and thankful for our production team because they help us out so much. And it said that my shirt was a green screen, which it isn't. It's navy green, and I like the shirt, and I just got it a few weeks ago, so it's nice to wear.
That's
and
awesome.
Also I got to wear my hat every week. I mean, I have a little bit more hair than you, Joe, but I'll keep the playing field civil.
Terminated within 5 minutes. There you go. Hey, so no, it's good to catch up, and let's take a look at our baseball rankings as this baseball season is fast coming to a close. And I'm going to just throw in one little shout out here for number 3, Franklin of the Oak Grove Unified and the Delta League, CIF state honors for Coach of the Year or Coach of Note. For Brian Kilby, and an amazing guy. He's a longtime coach there. He's worked with side by side with Mike Cody, the athletic director, and Brian Kilby is also the school's activities director. So he's involved in the proms and all that. So could you imagine what he went through last year on distance learning? Much of this year with Oak Grove Unified off campus, the guy allegedly has a cot somewhere stashed in the coach's office so he could save time every morning. But a class guy, you've seen him. I've known him for years. And so here we go. We got Elk Grove, Wood Creek, Franklin, Granite Bay, Pleasant Grove. Tell me a little bit about Pleasant Grove's best baseball player, Blanford, because I got a cool note.
Yeah, I saw Bobby Blanford play against Lincoln earlier this season. I think it was March, maybe. It's been not long since the baseball season's gone on in this area. But Bobby was terrific. His nickname is Bobby Barrels, and I said, I think I joked on the show, his nickname should be Bobby Bombs because he hits bombs, and he's a Player of the Year candidate. But as far as the whole rankings go, our top 7.
Hold that thought. Blanford's uncle is Paul Blanford, who in the early 1990s was our B Player of the Year in baseball, and he was this do-all marvel at Elk Grove, and he won games in relief. I think he went 10-1 as a senior, all in relief, and he saved them. And so he's the uncle of the Pleasant Grove Blanford, and how neat that they're playing this week to kind of finish up league season and all that. So there's a proudful uncle. The dad sent me a note. Did you know about this? I said, do I know? I made Paul Blanford famous, and Cameron Salerno's keeping the nephew famous. But your thoughts on those rankings as we – how many more games? Is this the final week? Do we have one more week next week?
I mean, honestly, like some teams, this is their final week. Some teams will play like another week after this. I know Granite Bay and Rockland play today. And to touch on kind of what you and Jim talked about earlier, league championships, I think there's been a lot of confusion about league championships the last few weeks because, for example, McClatchy said yesterday on Twitter that they won the league. And Laguna Creek's Twitter responded and said, not so fast. If we win the last 2 games, we're league champs. And then also too, I wrote a story
on that thought. Hey, let's get a rubber match game. Let's go.
Yeah. Well, I wrote about for the Sacramento Bee how Rockland won the Sierra Foothill League, and they posted about it, and they obviously very proud. I had Granite Bay brass reach out to me yesterday, say, "Wait, not so fast. Granite Bay and Rockland are co-SFL champs because they have the same league record, even though Granite Bay got swept by Rockland a few weeks ago, and obviously they have the head-to-head." But I was explaining that. Even though a team has a head-to-head because they play 3 games, they play 3 game series. It doesn't matter if a team beats them head-to-head; they still are co-champs. So I think you're going to see a lot of that. I know Elk Grove baseball, kind of like you mentioned earlier, is going to win the Delta League outright because they play Pleasant Grove. I think they won by a big margin yesterday.
They got much fewer losses than the rest of the teams in the league.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, top 7 remained unchanged. The only 2 newcomers to the top 10 are Rockland and Placer. Placer they swept Ponderosa, who was in that.
Let's take a look at those rankings. So we get those rankings back up there. Take a look, baseball top 10. There we go. And so in Placer, not to interrupt you there, sir, but Placer's had a great schedule, a lot of Friday night games, and supposed to play maybe Jesuit next week at Placer night game, if that's going to still happen. Here's another thing, Cameron, is we've talked about this, but with graduations, all these schools are having graduation last week, this week, next week. It's hard to supervise kids who've already graduated. And normally all the graduations happen before the championships, section championships, or the same week. And so any notion, hey, let's have playoffs and stretch it all the way through June. Well, kids will be graduating for some of those schools for a month already. And
some
that becomes a problem.
Yeah, some schools in Roosevelt Joint Unified graduate this week. My sister actually graduates this week on Thursday, and so that'll be cool.
From Wood Creek.
Yeah, from Wood Creek. But
so she's the first sibling to graduate. So because you never graduated, you didn't walk, did you?
Yeah,
you missed that day.
I did
suspension.
GPA. But what's funny about that is you don't realize what commitments, because the Lincoln Potters reached out to me and asked me to do a radio hit for them on Thursday. And I didn't think about it because I was like, oh, I should be free on Thursday. I'm free all the time. And
Lincoln Potters are the collegiate baseball team.
Yeah, and they're a Wood team.
Placer County.
Great competition.
Wood Bass, yeah.
Good players from collegiate level to some high school seniors. Anyways, well, they reach out to me, and then the person reached out to me yesterday to say, hey, we're going to have to cancel. And then I kind of asked my mom, like, hey, what are we doing on Thursday? And she's like, oh, yeah, your sister graduates. So thankfully, it got canceled, or else I probably would have had to make a tough decision. I probably would have picked graduation. So.
Well, you could have just texted your sister, Allie, I care. Not really. I'm going to go watch baseball. So no, that's hey, let's throw up the basketball girls rankings. Not a lot of change, not a lot of games. And here we go. I want to touch on
these rankings because there's not a big sample size. And like I moved McClatchy up to number 3 this week and Bannon up to number 4. But McClatchy only played 2 games, but they blew out both teams they played. They were dominant.
And that would have been a good team in a normal season. And you could see the disparity. How can some of these teams have 10, 11, 12 games? And McClatchy, the Sac City Unified School District took so long to get kids back on campus in any hybrid form from distance learning. And also you had to have so many days of practice indoors. So a lot of those teams, like in McClatchy and the Sac City Unified, they did blacktop outside coaching and teaching of the game. And Grant is an interesting story. Diamond Richardson's a 4-year starter. The Pacers are actually 9-0 now. They won a game last night. So a storied program. So there you go. And then Folsom just beat Oak Ridge. Refresh me on this, Cameron. Folsom just beat Oak Ridge to win the Sierra Foothill League Championship, which matched what the boys did. So pretty good living there for Folsom. And Folsom's got some good players. For sure, huh?
And on that back note about Grant Diamond Richardson, she's going to University of Pacific, one of the best players in this area. Like you mentioned, 4-year starter. I mean, there's some serious girls' talent in this area, Joe. And it's what's so sad about it is it's been hard to do these girls and boys basketball rankings because they're such a small sample size. And how do you compare someone's 2 games to someone Oak Ridge, who's played 11 games, or Folsom, who's played 8 games, or Delaware, who's played 13 games. So it's been hard. And I mean, with baseball, most teams have had a full season. They've played 20, 25
much easier
games. And so it's easier to rank that. And so I just want to give a disclaimer about that because it's definitely not easy to compare someone who's played maybe 2 games compared, like I said, to maybe 13. So
no, this is really good.
Hard.
And
I'm looking forward to normal in the fall.
Oh, we're going to get to normal. We demand normal. And if the state's supposed to be fully open on June 15th, according to the elected governor, Gavin Newsom, then there's a lot of discussion that all schools will have full on campus. LA Unified, the massive district down in Southern California, is going to have full on board instruction. And I think that's going to happen everywhere. Now we'll just get back to normal. We'll appreciate that. So Cameron, my friend, we appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon. We are going to sign off, and special thanks to our producers, Jim Silva and the amazing Camario Roberts, and David Caraccio was on vacation this week. I don't know how that's allowed. Well, that'll never happen again, but we are only as good as their efforts in the graphics and the video. Otherwise, we'd be in this room talking to ourselves. So we appreciate everybody. Check us out every day on sacbee.com, and we'll see you next week.